Alrighty, people, math joke of the day. I heard it's supposed to be a little chilly today. How do you stay warm in a math classroom on a chilly day? Go ahead and type in your answer. Alright, you should have gotten go to the corner because the corner is always 90 degrees. 'Cause on a rectangle, 90 degrees. Alright. Couple of quick thoughts. You should have a piece of paper, hopefully one of my notes papers, to take notes on, as well as a pencil. You probably won't need a calculator today, so don't worry about that. Reminder, tomorrow is just like this because I'm going to be with the boys team tomorrow. We got the girls conference today, boys team tomorrow. Another reminder, we've got our test next week, Tuesday. Have you started your strategy sheet yet? Hopefully you're starting to take notes, put notes on that strategy sheet, put down examples, important things that we've talked about. Game plan for today, we're going to go through a bell ringer problem, and then we're going to review the three major topics from this chapter. We're going to review numerical roots, square roots, cube roots. Then we're going to review our exponent rules, and then at the end, we'll review some scientific notation. So if you don't have notes out by now, then you got to get those out because we are going ahead and get started. Alrighty, so our review of roots. The length of a diagonal is square root of 181 inches. Which statement describes the length of the diagonal? So we have to figure out the square root of 181. Which of these answer choices best describes square root of 181? All right, so when I'm looking at this problem, I'm looking at my four answer choices, and my four answer choices go from 12 to 16. Now, square root, I'm thinking on my reference sheet, I had the roots over here, I had the squared number over here, and I had the cubed number over here. And we had all those roots 0 through 11, and then -1 through -11. But we did not have 12. So I'm going to figure out what 12 squared is. If I look at 12 squared, that means I'm doing 12 times 12. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off to the side. Some of you might already know that off the top of your head. If you don't know it, then we're going to do it together. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2, 0 placeholder, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, add going straight down, 4 plus 0 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, and then I have that 1, so 12 squared is 144. Now, I don't need to do the cubed column, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that over here, because I'm looking at the square root in this one. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to erase my scratch work here for 12 squared. And now I'm going to pause. I'm going to look at, okay, is 12 squared, is 144 close to 181? Well, kind of, not really, not as close as we would like it to be. So let's look at 13 and do 13 squared. Well, 13 squared means to do 13 times 13, so I'm going to do that off to the side. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. Placeholder. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. Add going straight down. 9 plus 0 is 9. 3 plus 3 is 6. And then a 1. 169. Now, that's a lot closer to 181, which is what I want. So I'm already thinking it can't be 12 and 13, because 12 and 13, 181 does not fit between these two numbers. So it cannot be answer choice A. But 169 is pretty close. I'm thinking it's probably going to be 13 and 14, but let's double check. 14 squared means 14 times 14. 14 times 14, I'm going to do off to the side again. 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Placeholder, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1. Add going straight down. 6 plus 0 is 6, 5 plus 4 is 9, and then 1, so that gives me 196. Now that worked out really nicely because 181 is going to fit right in between those two numbers. Since 181 fits between 169 and 196, I know then that the square root of 181, because remember this was saying the square root of 181, is going to be between 13 and 14. So I know that this one is letter choice B. We started from the lowest one, which was 12. We said, that's close, not quite it. 13 was a lot closer. So it's going to be between 13 and 14. So letter choice B on that one. All right, moving on to our exponent rules. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. This one says which expression is equivalent to 2 to the negative third over 2 to the negative fifth. Now, one thing that I'd like to point out is that first problem I went really, really fast through, and I tend to do that when I'm making a video because I can't see you pausing to take notes. So please make sure that you're pausing the video from time to time to write down the notes. Don't try to write the notes down as I'm talking through the problem. Now, for this one, hopefully I stalled long enough so that you wrote down the problem. So we're trying to figure out which of these expressions is equivalent to 2 to the negative third over 2 to the negative fifth. So I'm going to rewrite that down here. Now, this one falls in under the category of exponent rules. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, exponent rules, which of my exponent rules looks like this one here? So go ahead and find your exponent rules notes. Go look for them. Which exponent rule looks like this one on the board? Now, you might have said the negative exponent rule because there are negative exponents, and yes, that is the case. There are negative exponents, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Right now, we're looking at the major thing is there's that division. So that's telling me that this is going to be a quotient of powers. And we've been talking about that a lot with scientific notation because we use that when we divide numbers in scientific notation. And quotient of powers tells us to subtract the exponents. So that means I have to take negative 3 and negative 5 and subtract them. Now, yesterday when we were doing the scavenger hunt, a lot of you were having a hard time visualizing it in your head when we have a negative and we're subtracting, or a positive and a negative and we're subtracting. It's okay to do it on paper. I do that all the time. I take negative 3, subtract negative 5. Usually you put both of them in parentheses. And then you can recognize when we have minus a negative, that turns into plus positive. Negative 3 plus 5. Now, some of you might be able to do that right away in your head. If you have trouble with that, visualize it on a number line. If this is 0, this is negative 1, negative 2, -3. We're starting at -3, and we're adding 5. So we're going 5 in the positive direction. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was 1, this was 2. So I end up at 2. So that was when we subtracted the exponents, which means we have that same base of 2, but our new exponent is +2. So that means in this one, it has to be letter choice A. Now, here's where this one can throw you off. If you did not get that correct on your prediction, where you might have been thrown off is you might have said, oh, they're both negative, so you can add them together and get +8 or -8. Well, careful, be really, really careful when you're going through it. Do it all the way out. Be deliberate about your approach. Don't try to cut corners. -3 minus -5. Well, that's -3 plus 5, which gives you a +2. Since it's positive, it stays on the top. So it has to be answer choice A. All right, moving on to scientific notation. All right, this one says Lori entered the mass in kilograms of 4 substances into a spreadsheet. Her spreadsheet automatically converted the masses into scientific notation. So her spreadsheet looks like this here, where she's got the 4 substances and their masses over here. Now, we haven't quite talked about this yet, and yesterday was kind of the first day where we used calculators in class. When you are typing really big or really small numbers into a computer or a calculator, a lot of the times it does the scientific notation for you because it can't fit the big numbers. So now, if I'm looking at these here, 2.45 E minus 4. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, what does this E minus 4 actually mean? So take a minute and see if you can figure out what that actually means. All right, so maybe you've already seen this before, maybe you have not. Whenever it has that E, that's what it's using for scientific notation. Exponent, E for exponent. And it's telling you that the exponent is -4. So when you see this 2.45 E -4, what that's actually saying is 2.45 times 10 to the -4. It's telling you the significant figures. The sig figs are 2.45, and then it's telling you the exponent on the 10 is -4. So if I rewrite these in scientific notation, I've got 6.8 times 10 to the -3rd. Then I've got 7.125 times 10 to the -5th. And my last one is 9.0 times 10 to the -4th. So then the question that it asks us is to list them from least to greatest. Now, I'm going to have that same piece of advice that I gave you on the last problem. If you're not sure, draw a number line. In this one, since we're comparing the relative size of these substances, I'm looking at the exponents on the 10, because that's going to give me the general size. Because all the sig figs are going to be a number 1 through 10. But the exponents on the 10 are going to be what compares it. So if 0 is here, then -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, which one is the smallest? Well, the least mass is going to be the one with the negative 5 because that's the smallest exponent. So I'm going to say negative 5 is the smallest, which is substance C. Now, if I got this problem on a STAR test, on the IAR, on the PSAT, I already know, well, if substance C is the smallest, well, I'm going from least to greatest. So it's got to be either C or D. So it can't be A, can't be B. So I got to decide between answer choice C and answer choice D. Now, when I'm looking at it, the biggest thing that I have to compare is substance A and substance D. So substance A was the 2.54 times e to the negative fourth, and substance D was 9.0 times 10 to the negative fourth. So they both have that exponent of negative 4. So relatively they're the same size. But now I got to look at those sig figs. If I look at those sig figs, substance A has 2.45, while D has 9.0. Which one's bigger, 2.45 or 9.0? I hope you said that 9.0 is bigger than 2.45 because that would be correct. So that means that 2.45 would be the next least amount. So in my order, I've got C, and then my next least would be A. So it has to be answer choice C, and it can't be answer choice D. So we use scientific notation to compare the relative size. That's what led us to say substance C was the least mass. But then once we get down to the same relative size, these both had exponents of negative 4, then we got to compare those sig figs. 2.45 is less than 9.0, so that's going to be less in terms of mass. All right. Just to recap, we've got another Edpuzzle video tomorrow during class. We've got our test next week on Tuesday. So start working on your strategy sheet. Start working on the Delta Math for this chapter. If you finish this Edpuzzle before the end of class, start working on the strategy sheet. Start working on the Delta Math. Make sure you're doing something to keep yourself busy. And then your final task for today is I want you to email me 2 truths and a lie. In the subject of the email, I want you to type your name and the class period. So in the subject line of the email, type in Mr. G, period 1, whenever you have math class. And then in the body, I want you to type 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself, and I'll try to guess which one is a lie. So nice job today. I will see you guys in another Edpuzzle video tomorrow. Hopefully you guys were on your best behavior today for our sub, and I'll see you on Friday.